Welcome back to Widen Your Lens podcast. My name is D. My name is Lucid. I'm with D, and we have a very special guest. You can hear how nervous I am because we have a very special guest with us today. He's a comic book writer, prolific Black man in the comic book industry that is really pushed forward a lot of careers that you might not even know about, but you definitely have heard of them. And I would like to really introduce Dr. Michael Davis, the co-founder of the original Milestone comic and writer of the original Static comic. And just want to say welcome. I know we're in the beginning. We have applause later on in the video. I say welcome, Mr. Dr. Davis.
I like. You did a little research, man. You did a little research. First of all, a couple of not corrections, but misnomers. Talking to you yesterday, I know that you know your stuff, and I know that you've done much more research than most people. But Milestone, the original Milestone, so that's Milestone Media. Comics is part of it, and that's important because what they're doing now was what we started 20-something, almost 30 years ago. Hard to believe I was involved in that company when I was 5. Not a word. That's it. Usually when people do, other than that, your introduction was straight on. I like the doctor thing, man, because most people they don't appreciate that because
we have to give respect.
Well,
exactly. That's a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of sweat and blood and sacrifice to get to that doctor.
So badass, they just give it to you. Hold on, sorry. The most of the flack I get from that, because I don't use it. I'm just like, I only use it when, and as Black people, especially African Americans, anything. I only use it when I need to check somebody, right? You've all heard of this woman who was a doctor, and there was an emergency on a plane, and she went to help, and they asked her not only for ID, but they didn't believe her ID when she gave it to her, right? Yeah. So I've come up against that a few times, and I used to just shut it off. One particular time, sorry, one second, sorry.
No problem, sir.
Yeah, I had open heart surgery, not like 8 months ago. So when I get a cough, I get all freaked out. If I die on your podcast, I'm blaming you.
Okay. Well, hopefully there's something good will come out of it.
Last words.
I thought we filled out all that release paperwork.
We Black people in and of itself, we are always questions on our resumes, right? So one particular day, you mind if I use art for this?
Please.
Right?
No, that's fine. Yes.
So one particular day, I'm at this restaurant in, the hotel, the W in Brentwood, California. I hate trendy shit. I just hate it. I lived in a trendy neighborhood, Tribeca in New York, and so all these gentrified trender. It's just, I have no. I'm looking for a politically correct word. Wait, who am I? I'm not politically correct. I have no time and patience for people who assume that wealth or status makes you a better person. None whatsoever. So, but also I'm an advocate of women, and 3 to 4 women that raised me were murdered. So wow. I'm always conscious of women in certain situations. So I was at the W, and there was these, for lack of, I don't say this in a prejudicial way. I'm saying it because they were not acting like men. They were boys. There were these white boys. They were following this white woman. So I roll over there and I'm like, why are you hitting on my sis? Right? And she was clearly a white girl. She was not my sister. Right? And I'm like, you need to step off. And they were in business suits. And I was actually there to meet somebody that snapped their fingers. Damn, it will come. Oh man, I have a hard time. the singer Chris Brown. I'm there to meet Chris Brown and his people. So I'm sitting there, and so they leave because they punks. And she's sitting there by herself, and we start talking. She works for Disney. I reminded her that we pitched Static at Disney, and Disney said no. How they like us now. Although if it would have been with Disney, it would have been a movie 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. So, what this woman was very much like your son. She didn't have a beard, but she was really smart. You know, she was really on point, and she was woke. So, what you do, pay attention, young people who are listening to this. What you do when somebody's in proper etiquette, when somebody hands you your card. In America, most people don't even look at it; they'll just put it in their wallet immediately, right? In proper etiquette, and in Japan, while you're talking to someone, you hold your card in your hand as a show of respect. You do that in Japan when somebody hands you your business card and you don't even look at it, and they put it in and you put it in their pocket. They may still talk to you, but your business has been done, right? So if you don't want to hold it, if you're at a dinner or something, you leave it in front of you, right? So my card was in front of her, which is this, right? And that's not a business card. It's a calling card, because it doesn't say what I do. It just says my name and my title, and on the back it's got my information, how to contact me. The MOTU, which is also on my business card holder, stands for Master of the Universe. So that's how I roll. So if a boyfriend shows up like 20 minutes late and rolls over, and I get up, she introduces me, he ignores me. I get up and he looks at me and he goes, "What's this?" Looks at the card. Really? PhD? Do you even know what PhD means?
Wow.
And she's visibly embarrassed, right? Because she's such. I don't know the background, but she and I became friends, and she left him. But I don't want to front her online. That wouldn't be appropriate. So I said, well, actually, in academia, it means he's like, oh, academia. I said, it means Dr. Philosophy. But Karen, if you're ever tired of this little bitch, it means pretty hard dick. And then he hunches up. He hunches up like he's a dude. You don't have no idea who you are. And then he left. I won't get into the rest of it, but we always got to. I mean, somebody out of the blue, and people online say, "Oh, you ain't got." Why would you lie about some shit like that?
Exactly, especially today.
I won't. She. One of my biggest problems is that I always, when somebody apologizes to me, I immediately, unless they're, I don't know, killed my parents and caused me to become Batman. When they apologize, I'm a Christian, so I forgive, right? I may not forget, but I forgive. And I'm often put into a situation where people are short-sighted and they don't realize what they're, the things that they're saying and the things that they're doing are not, they're not beneficial to us getting the next
further
step.
Along.
Yes, exactly. So, you know what? This is going to come up later because it's sparked. This is now. It's not an appropriate moment. I need some more drugs. No, I'm thinking. No, I'll get back to this later because it falls because it's something we touched on yesterday, and I'll touch on what I was about to say again later when we get to what it is we touched on yesterday.
Yeah.
Because it applies there. Okay, but yeah, I get that all the time. Oh, I got it. I remember it, and I don't. Then I'm done with this. I got it. We had this conversation yesterday about Gordon Parks.
Yes.
Yeah. See, your son knew peripherally who Gordon Parks was, but I'm sure yesterday when you get off the phone with me, you dug into that man's life, right?
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, they call him the Black Da Vinci, but I call Da Vinci the white Gordon Parks. So, the Michael Davis Auditorium is at the Gordon Parks Academy in East Orange, New Jersey. I was about to speak to this. I do a lot of public. I used to do a lot of public speaking. The last public. My last keynote was going to be at a graduation a couple of years ago at a very prestigious Black university. I'm not going to mention it because universities should not be penalized for the actions of one person. Yeah. But you all know it's one of the biggest, and I'm going to get into it. Right. So I get a call from this woman, and she left a message, and I knew exactly what about. Frankly, she called to just totally disregard me, just to dismiss me and to insult me, because she did some research and she found out that there was no Michael Davis Auditorium in the Gordon Parks Academy. And I'm like, oh yeah, it is. I knew exactly what she was doing. And at the moment I heard that, she said no, and I let her go on. You know, and she's like, we're gonna cancel the check. We're gonna do all the rest of this stuff. We're gonna do this, that, and we insist that you get that money. You know, because they pay me half in advance. Whatever. Yeah, it doesn't matter. And I let her go on. Right? And then I said, well, I'm sorry. You know, she says, really? Well, let me get my staff so you can apologize to everybody. I'm like, you don't want to do that because you want the staff to know how much of a dumb bitch you are. I went right there. I went right there. Right, just a white woman who worked for a very big Black institution. Mm-hmm. Right. She said, "What did you call me?" I said, "Dumb bitch." I said, "Because you're right. There is no Michael Davis Auditorium or Gordon Parks Academy in Kansas City, Missouri. It's in East Orange, New Jersey." She had no idea. I mean, she didn't even do. If all I did was a simple Google search.
Yeah, her due diligence.
Yeah. I tell you, what would I be doing in Kansas City? I mean, what would that? what possible? Well, you know my background. You know I'm not that nigger. What possible reason would they have to put I'm Kansas City?
Yeah.
Home of Hallmark. I'm like, no. She's like, whoop. I'll give you a minute to form your apology. And then I hung up. She called me back in tears. And I'm like, damn, I really wanted her to call me back defiant. But I forgive, right? Which is why I'm not outing her. And I'm not, but I find that African American creators, there's not a whole lot of that going around, right? Because Brother Man and Milestone had a serious feud for years. I talked to the guy that loved that book. In today's political climate, if you're a Democrat, you have to hate a Republican, regardless.
Which is ridiculous. Yeah.
No matter what it is. If Obama would have cured cancer, it would have been he cured cancer. But what about those good people who are making their money off of the cancer drugs, which are no longer going to be in business because of Mr. Obama? You know, it's like,
why did he do it sooner?
Why? We know he was complicit in the murder of Abraham Lincoln. You know, I mean, it's dumb. So
he crashed Amelia Earhart's plane.
He knows where Amelia Earhart is, but refuses
to tell us.
Right? So, it's just nuts. But the minute. A lot of people in the comic community, period. The minute something goes south and you don't like somebody's situation, all of a sudden their work sucks. That's crazy. Mm-hmm. I do not like Elton John. I used to be the biggest Elton John fan on the planet, and almost got my ass kicked when I was a kid. And I was 8th grade or whatever. When you get, those your dad I remember these youth corps jobs. On the summer, yeah. I remember. It's basically a way to keep kids off the street. Mm-hmm. So my first paycheck after I cashed that, I went to the store with my boys. Went to the record store. They're buying James Brown. They're buying the Temptations. I'm asking for Captain Fantastic and the Brown Dirt Cowboy. Elton John, because we didn't have FM. What was FM? I listened to WABC, and I liked Elton John. So, but this is a man that used to get on that used to perform "Candle in the Wind," and this is a song about Marilyn Monroe. He changed it to be about Princess Di. He used to perform that song in a Donald Duck outfit.
My son doesn't know anything about that, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
I've seen the stuff. Like, I'm familiar with Elton John. Yeah. I remember his costumes.
Yeah.
So yeah, the glasses, this and another, and
bringing back memories,
dude. But then you remember this? Remember Life is Beautiful? That film. Life is Beautiful. It's about a concentration camp. Anyway, it won Best Picture. Mm-hmm. The guy who wrote and directed the picture got up and lost his mind when he won. Lost his mind. He's stepping on chairs. He's doing stuff. He's running around the thing. And Elton John is on the after Barbara Walters special, where they interview people, because he gives this big Oscar party every year, which I've been to. It's really nice. And he's like, well, what did you think of the nominees this year? Well, it was a beautiful film, but that was just such an ass the way he accepted it. Just from the guy that used to dress up like a duck. Like a duck to sing a song about a dead idol. Seems to me she lived her life like a quack candle in the wind. I mean, it's just people forget what they say. And then all of a sudden they're better than something. This guy didn't do half as much zany shit as Elton John did. But now Elton John's now so big now because he's Sir Elton John. Sir, whatever. So I don't do that. And that's been a big problem for me in the industry and among some African American creators, because I don't hold grudges and shit, and people and I don't spread rumors. Right? I put a guy on the black panel. Who in print called me a house Negro.
Wow.
He doesn't know that I know, because he doesn't know that I know that he said that, but because I've never gone public and said X, Y, and Z said this about me. Because and why is he on the black panel? Because he's one of the best writers in the industry now. Right. So then the point of the black panel is to get access to people like him. And so that we can have more people in the business. That's the point. Each one teach one.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not about to get upset because he said something stupid. He's probably said, I'm not. I can't be that guy. I'm my mom's son. My mom didn't teach me.
That's a lesson that bears repeating, especially for our younger folks, but even for folks my age. That
dude,
the whole what's the point of tearing someone else down? How is that going to lift you up? And a rising tide lifts all boats. So if you see someone doing well, praise them. So I understand that.
You introduce them to another person, to somebody who can help in the struggle, right? I don't get that. It's like people like, well, why aren't you suing Milestone? Why?
Yeah.
I got plenty of reasons why. My experience with Ropes and Gray. You get a postcard from Ropes and Gray. You shoot yourself in the head, right? Because they don't play, right? And there's all sorts of reasons to do things, but there's all sorts of just because you can do a thing doesn't mean you should do a thing. So what am I going to do? Dennis Cowan was my best friend. Am I about to go through that anguish and deal with this shit for $1? Right? Yeah. But that doesn't stop me from voicing the fact that Static Shock was my baby. I'm a co-creator. I did not come up with Static by myself. But here's what I didn't come up with: the name. Everything else is on me.
Yeah. As I read that Sharon was based off of your sister, your mother,
My sister Sharon Hawkins. My cousin's name was Alan Hawkins. The original name of Virgil was Alan Hawkins. Dwayne, in another stroke of genius by Dwayne, changed it to Virgil, right? Because of
the lawyer from University of Florida,
right.
the great activist.
So my mother's name was Jean. Guess whose Static's name is Jean? My sister's name was Sharon. Static's name is Sharon. My stepfather's name was Robert, the only father I ever knew. Static's father's name was Robert. Best friend Richie. Everything down to the students who were in my class are in their Bible. I wrote that Bible.
Wow.
Yeah. I wrote the Bible. Here's the thing. Strategically, although I respect what they're doing at Malcolm, strategically it's a bad move to cut me out of anything, because the mainstream press will find out. Marvel was smart. Most of the things that came from the Black Panther movie came from a white boy, Don McGregor. Don McGregor, 90% of what you saw in 90% of what you saw in the Black Panther movie was from shit that Don McGregor wrote. Right? Now, Don McGregor did all sorts of news for. He was on Today's Show, the Tomorrow Show, the Yesterday's Show, the show, the future. Don McGregor was interviewed by everybody and their mother. Now, one of the reasons is Marvel Comics is smart. What you don't want to do is ignore him, and then right before the movie comes out, the white man behind the Black Panther. You really think that would not have translated into because the Black Panther was made a blockbuster by Black people.
Yes.
Black people made that the biggest thing in the history of Black cinema. And it was Black people who wrote it, Black people who directed it, Black people who, I think it was that was a Black production, right? Yeah. So Statics, but here's the thing. Black Panther, which created by Stan Lee, was a friend of mine. Stan and I used to have lunch every month. Marvel Productions was in a building in Westwood, California. Marvel Productions was on the floor above my office. My offices were at Showtime at the time. Oh, y'all didn't know I had to deal with Showtime. A lot of people don't know that shit. You know what I'm saying? Stan's office is right above me. Right now, I had a really great office because that was the office that was available, not because I was running shit at Showtime. So, and we would have lunch. And he told me, he said he created Black Panther because the Black Panthers needed to be created because Black people needed to see something that represented them. This is Stan telling me this shit in 2001, right? Now, this is when nobody was paying attention to Stan, right? This is when Stan was walking around in members-only jackets, and he was doing his thing. He was Stan Lee, but he wasn't Stan Lee.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because that was prior to the MCU, where now everybody loves Marvel.
Yeah, but he's still a recognized figure. Stan is a smart guy. He said he didn't create the Black Panther as a Black superhero. As an American superhero, because at the time, in the stroke of genius, he called it the Black Panthers when the Black Panthers was like #1 on the FBI get list. And he called it, hey, this is an African superhero. And Stan used to do college tours. Stan would go out and speak to colleges all the time, right? So the FBI is talking to like, why are you doing this? Right? That's a comic book. That's genius. So that's the history of the Black Panther. Static, however, is the most popular Black superhero ever created by a Black team. Period. Static's been off the air for what, 20 freaking years? And you go online right now.
2004, so
nobody
almost 20 years.
Math on the damn interview, man. So
no, I'm just that big of a fan that I'm thinking like, when is that? 2004, yeah.
Yeah, Carry the One. It's been a syndication, but it hasn't been. There's been no new Static episodes in 20 years just that yet. And it wasn't. And at the time it was taken off the air, it was #2 on the planet, behind Pokemon.
Yeah.
Occasionally we used to beat Pokemon. Right? Now why did they take it off? Well, because they didn't want a Black superhero. No, they took it off because that's how animation runs. Unless it's a primetime animated show like The Simpsons or Family Guy, right? Those are deemed like regular network shows.
Mm-hmm.
They'll go on until they stop. In animation, you do 2 or 3 episodes. I'm sorry, 2 or 3 years, 4 years, and then you get, I don't know, 70 somewhat episodes, and you start making them.
Mm-hmm.
Because every 7 years, you've got a new group of people who haven't seen it. So so static will run forever because every 7 years you got a new person turning 7 who's starting to watch that stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Into perpetuity. That was one of the genius things of Michael Eisner, who was running Disney. Do you believe that people were saying, "Hey, we should never put any Disney stuff on video because Michael Eisner's like, you out of your freaking mind, right? Of course we're gonna put it on video. It's gonna be a limited. Not now. You want it, it's there.
Yeah.
Right? And who do we have to thank for that? Genius. Porn.
Streaming.
The porn
and the internet
revolutionized video sales.
Mm-hmm.
All the stuff that you see, the
HD DVD or HD DVD and Blu-ray.
Special features behind it. All that shit's for porn. Not that I would know. I just heard it. You know.
I mean, it's a fairly known fact that like between the battle between HD DVD and Blu-ray, porn was the one that decided that it was Blu-ray, and that's why that industry won, because porn released everything on Blu-ray. It was easier for them.
Well, it's like the biggest, one of the biggest mistakes Sony ever made when they wouldn't share the technology for Betamax, right? So the industry came up with VHS. With Betamax, what happened to Betamax?
It's gone.
Well, they still use beta in the television industry, right? But it's not. It's changed. But now, what is it now? Remember Netflix came out when you used to get the envelopes at your house?
Yeah.
That used to be
there didn't even have a streaming service.
Man, the giants, I'm with it. They were so thrilled. Now
they were trying to compete with Blockbuster. Like they're like, we're gonna shut down Blockbuster. Yeah, right.
But Netflix is now the hottest studio on the planet.
Yeah.
And they were, this is crazy. It was the second hottest studio, Amazon. And none of this stuff came from the industry. It came from people. Netflix came from people renting videos.
And now the industry's courting them.
Blockbuster came from a guy selling books. Right? Now I'm not Blockbuster, Amazon. You know? So the next big thing, here's the thing with static. So the industry, the real journalists have already contacted me about talking about static because of the backstory. The backstory is my sister was murdered, my mother, I mean, it's really a story of a family. I created static, not by myself, just 99.9%. No. I created the Static Bible, excuse me. I wrote the Static Bible for something, it really wasn't about Static. It was about his sister, Sharon, to give my mother something because of her, my sister had been murdered and my mother had lost her firstborn child and her mom. So Static was created to give her something that she could watch that would still bring my sister back, life, that my sister would live on, so to speak. And that's a hell of a story, right? That's a hell of a backstory.
Yeah.
Now, there are people who have consistently tried to distance me from that. And it's not like I don't know what's going on. And I see shit clearly. It's like when I was talking to your son yesterday, I'm sorry, when I was talking to you yesterday, I showed him proof of my foresight, so to speak. I write things down before they happen, and then they happen. Like I said in 2014, Tiffany Haddish was going to rule the world. A year or two later, she's on the cover of Time magazine. Right? I said that I had an inkling that Milestone was going to exclude me. It's politics, it wasn't personal. And I said this clearly. I said, I mean, you read the article, right? The Milestone contract.
I started going through it, but then with all this technical, I hadn't had a chance to finish. I went through the DD, the one about where you were mad about the guy that misconstrued your article and tried to I went through that one for sure.
Yeah. But the other one you read it with me online. Remember the strike?
Oh yes.
Yeah, and I just put it out there because I see plans. I see stuff way before it happened because I take myself out of the equation. What would I do if faced with something which would be damaging if I let it go? And I've been accused of being a loose cannon. So this country was founded on loose cannons. This planet, our freedom. The African American experience, which is the American experience. Because African American culture is predominant pop culture all over the planet, right? There's nobody dressing up like somebody will dress up like Britney Spears for a second, but whole generations try to emulate black culture.
Exactly.
Right. In Japan, they're not big fans of black people as a whole, but they love the way we love the way we get down.
They love b-boy. That's something I learned when I started breakdancing in my youth. That's something I realized, like, man, the Asians love breakdancing. Yeah, they love it. They love our music. They love breakdancing. But God, can some of them be racist?
But it is what it is.
So, Dr. Davis, your experience with DC and Milestone Media, how does that affect you moving forward? What, based on what you plan to do in the future, how are you going to learn from that experience or take that experience into the decisions you make?
I'm gonna roll up the little motherfuckers. I'm gonna go give it.
Demonetized.
It's not real.
It's an airsoft gun, everyone. Don't demonetize that shit.
Yeah, just so we're clear.
It's just a prop, guys.
Not anymore. No, it's not. Hold on a second, just leave it. I can't. Bam! Oh no, just a bad joke. Damn it, come on out here. Yeah, it is.
But yeah, no, I did like his question about how do you think that has this stuff with DC and Milestone, changed how you plan on going forward with all your deals, and how you plan to work with people?
I can tell you exactly what all right, you see that in the bottom? That's the screw that tightens it. That's still the that's in the gun. It's not real.
Okay.
It's real.
It's proof.
But it shoots BBs.
It'll hurt real bad.
Oh no, you can kill somebody with one of these motherfuckers. It's not a firearm. It's a weapon. I use it in my work. That's not to say I am not equipped with real firearms. If you feel like coming over to my house,
that's fine.
I'm not dying. You read the article. Some of the questions and answers when I had to school that guy.
Yes.
Right. When I went down and I said, there's no love between DC Comics and I. Here's the thing. I'm a present administration. First of all, black people run DC Comics now. Period.
Really?
The woman in charge is a black woman. The man second in command is a black person. One of the things that I've learned in the entertainment business is that relationships are everything, right? And some of my relationships, you don't question. It's like there was a person at DC who just did not like me, and the reason he didn't like me is because I tell people what I think. We were at a meeting when we were setting up Milestone. We were at a meeting with the powers that be at DC, publisher, president of the company, and the marketing guy. Right? Publisher is Jeanette Kahn. The editor of the company at the time was Paul Levitz. The marketing guy name was Bruce Bristow. Bruce, who knew his stuff, but knowing your stuff doesn't mean a damn thing in the black community. Mm-hmm. You sell to the you don't sell to the black community. You don't sell to the black community. To sell to the black community, you got to be accurate. You got to be truthful, and you got to be truthful.
They pander to the black community.
It's like if you're a white boy, if you're Eminem, you get respect. If you're Vanilla Ice, you get to be a trivia question. Mm-hmm. Right? It's just as simple as that.
You have to engage with us. You have to become part of our community. Yeah. You can't just come and hawk your goods and then walk away.
And even Eminem is a little iffy among some on the black community.
Well, because his earlier shit, he used to say nigger all the time. And his earlier stuff. But he was smart enough before he got to be crazy big. He said, you know what? I'm not saying that anymore. I don't have a right to say it. Right? All right? And you can security and Chuck D wouldn't have been hanging out with that boy because Chuck D is all about being righteous. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, so at one point, the marketing guy was like, we want to introduce these characters in silhouettes. We want to introduce them in. First of all, that was a bad idea, right? Because nobody had ever seen the characters before, so you're going to introduce them as figures of. It's a bad idea, right? Mm-hmm. Then he wanted something which he fought for, which is authentic language. Now, to him, that meant fuck, shit, damn, your mama, dick, suck. You know, it means all the stuff he hears on really bad written movies about black people. That's what it meant. And being from the hood, I will admit that there is that language in the hood. Mm-hmm. Yo, man, I get it. I'm there. Whether or not it's authentic in all parts of African American history, no. I mean, American culture, no. Right? I'm not walking into my job at Merrill Lynch going, what the fuck is up, D? I'm not that guy.
Exactly.
I'm not doing that.
And as a father, I'm not letting my 10-year-old kid bring home a comic book with those words in it.
And that's what the freaking problem was with me. But I wasn't supposed to know that because I was just an artist. At the time I'm being an artist, I was living better than everybody. I was living in a $3 million loft, right? Because I'm like, that shit was crazy, right? I mean, I was like, what, 5 years old when I was at Milestone? That's 30 years old. So so I know, but it's about business, and in business it's revenue versus it's overhead versus revenue. The head of Nabisco. You know what his next job was when he left Nabisco? He ran IBM. You may be thinking, what the crackers got to do with IBM? Got to do with computers? Nothing. But he was a CEO, right? He was there to expand the business, not to bake cookies. He was there to deal with revenue and overhead. So he didn't have to know anything about computers except that they made them, right?
Hey guys, you guys keep going on. There's something going on at my door. I'll be right back. You guys keep talking.
Mm-hmm. Say police. It's a problem. so you don't. He didn't know anything about it. Now I was trying to be a nice guy. I was talking about, we know, because I wasn't interested in whether or not this man had watched the wrong movies. I was interested in the Bible Belt. Mm-hmm. This was the time of Sister Soldier. This was the time of Cop Killer with Ice-T. Mm-hmm. The amazing thing about the Ice-T thing, man, is Ice-T went on, had a record called Cop Killer. They pulled it from the stands, which made it, of course,
everybody wants it.
And then for the last 20 years, this boy's been playing a cop.
Yeah. I didn't even think about that. That's hilarious.
How do you sell that?
Hilarious.
Here's the thing. We're gonna do this new NYPD do it. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. How about if we break the barrier here? We bring up somebody that nobody would expect to be a cop. Ice-T. What? Yeah, we gotta go cop killer. We'll make him cop. I don't care anything about how he got the job. I want to know the guy that pitched that shit. Yeah. I want to know how he can. That's the thing. It's like people like Helen Keller couldn't see, couldn't hear, had no sense of profound. Yet she becomes this remarkable woman. That's been impressive. Mm-hmm. I'm not interested that much in Helen Keller as I am in the person who taught Helen Keller. Right? It's like, yeah, man, I like the Lakers, and I used to work for Magic Johnson. I mean, I ran his animation business, and
as an ex-teacher, yeah, no, that's a big deal. It's like, well, who was the one that taught them? Well, I get that.
We were talking about muffins, man. Were you?
I can hear you the whole time. So.
Oh shit. So just threw me off my game.
Oh my bad.
So he's telling me all this shit, and I'm like, well, man, things are a little different than the African American community, and they are. And this I actually learned from Magic Johnson. Black people and white people are very similar, but it's the little things that make us different, and it's the little things that define us. Black people go to the movies, and whatever we eat that night, we eat at the movies. Mm-hmm. We don't go to dinner in the movies. We go to the movies, we eat popcorn or a bird or whatever. No, whatever we eat.
Hot dog.
That's our dinner. Mm-hmm. Afterwards, back when there was no plague killing us, we may go to a club afterwards, or we may go to a bar, or we may do something else. But white people, I gotta hurry up with our order because we gotta make this 3:00 showing of On Golden Pond. It's the same, but it's different. It's the same, but it's different. That's a big deal. That's why Magic Johnson Starbucks are like Renaissance meeting places. Mm-hmm. Because Magic Johnson taught the CEO of Starbucks of giving the only franchise ever given by Starbucks. Right? And it had nothing to do with the fact that he was an NBA player. Because you can be you can get a meeting because you're an NBA player, but you ain't getting
a Starbucks franchise. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I had a guy a few years ago, and I liked Shaq. And he was he was a voice on Static. We did an episode with Shaq.
I do remember that episode.
His management at the time was trying to get him to be on the Black Panel. I'm like, why? Because this is before he did anything in animation. Mm-hmm. This is before he, and he couldn't believe that I'm like said no, right? So man, Neo had to call me. His people called me to get him on, and then I had to speak to Neo before he was on the Black Panel because I didn't know that Neo was a big comic book fan. I didn't know that Neo did science fiction movies. I didn't know anything about that, right? But you just because I'm not putting Madonna on the Black Panel. If she starts a black comic book company, maybe
Then answer some interesting questions. Why are you starting a black comic book?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's who you put on. That's yeah. So I'm not kissing anybody's ass because they got juice. Shit, I got juice. When I died, I trended worldwide. When I died. Oh, for your viewers, somebody hijacked my social media and identity theft me and said
when you try again.
You don't want to go through that, but yeah, what I should have did was not come out and say I should have stayed dead for 3 days and then came back.
Okay.
Should have Jesus.
Just Jesus him. Exactly. Just Jesus him.
So I'm talking to this guy, and I said, Bruce, these we're not going to sell you the book. No, these got to be authentic. Damn the sales. Damn the sales.
Exactly.
I mean, all right. So I'm like, what's appropriate? Oh, we got to use the word shit. I said, okay. I said shit. I got a movie I made about this bitch. I did a 3-minute movie about exactly what happened. I'll send it to you, right? I said, I accept shit. He said, what about fuck? I said, well, there's a lot of fucking in the hood, right? And then I said, all right, Bruce. And I looked at him like this. I said, Bruce, it's profanity all right with this podcast?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We're fine. Yeah, you're fine. I can't tell you if YouTube won't. I see that YouTube's been muting cuss words for people, so I don't have control if this YouTube decides to mute your words. YouTube.
I can go. There's there's shit on there. Anyway, but this is what happened. I'm not just saying it to be broad.
Yeah.
Right? I said, Bruce, and I looked him right in the face. I said, Bruce, what about sucking my motherfucking dick, you bitch? Is that acceptable? Is that acceptable? Is that something we can get away with? Right then and there, I had made my point, and right then and there, my relationship with DC was over. Because the head of DC at the time, that was his boy. And that was the second time I put his boy in check. The first time was when I went into his office, he had a picture of a Porsche on his wall. And I'm a car guy, I like cars, right? I'm like, this is nice, man. He says, well, maybe one day if you work hard, you took one of these.
He didn't do that.
Oh no, he did that. And I was like, oh really? Because I had keys. Right? And let's just say my keychain was the Porsche 944, the entry level Porsche. It was an entry level Porsche.
Yeah.
Right? The Porsche with a Volkswagen engine. Newsflash, Volkswagen owns Porsche, right? But so that Volkswagen engine was also in the Jetta. All right. So I'm like, he's like, anybody can buy a keychain, right? But my car was the state of the art, no joke, sports car.
Yeah.
So he dismissed me. A couple of weeks later, I'm coming out of DC's parking lot, driving my beast. I'm like, Bruce. He looks at me and don't just say hello and just keep. So now he feels like shit because I'm not there, whatever. Mm-hmm. So now DC, the fix is in. I can't. I'm done at that point. And it became very hard for me. We had a pay to play at Milestone, meaning if our income fell below a certain level, DC Comics would have to make up that difference. Mm-hmm. Because we were all going to do nothing else but Milestone. Nothing but Milestone. Right? So that means everything else I was doing, once it was done, I couldn't go back there. So I'm giving up careers for this bitch, right? So I'm living in a $3 million loft in Jersey City in 91, 92? Now in today's dollars, that's $4 billion. Right? So I'm living in this 3-story loft. And how bad my loft was that when Milestone used to have high-level meetings, they used my loft in Jersey City. So I'm doing well. I'm driving 2 sports cars. You know why I got 2? Because I didn't want to turn around when I left my house. I wanted to go one direction or the other direction. Right? I'm living large, right? I'm living large, but I'm newly married. And I'm looking for pictures of the loft. I'm newly married and things are fine. My wife's first generation Cuban. Cuban American, born in this country. So she's thinking of living behind our means. We're not. So, shit, man. We're not living beyond our means. Because I could afford it. But DC, my income from Milestone, we didn't take salary. Only person that took a salary was Derek Dingle.
Okay.
right? Because he was, he wasn't creative. Well, Dwayne got paid for being editor-in-chief and writing. Dennis got paid for being art director and drawing. I got paid for being head of special talent and special projects. I was in charge of the press. I was in charge of the conventions. I was in charge of I was in charge of the press, conventions. Milestone changed the way conventions were done at comics. I mean, panels were done at comics. So I was in charge of all that shit. Now, one of those jobs would have been, and I was doing, but the income, I wasn't getting paid for that. I was getting paid to write and draw static since I created the universe, right? So I'm getting paid to write and draw static. John Paul Leon comes into my my mentor program, which is Bad Boy Studios, right? Bad Boy Studios has been cited all over the world as that's the view from the second floor of the loft I was living in at the time.
Nice.
That's the view from the second floor. So that's the second floor. The third, there was another floor above that, right?
Yeesh.
Oh, in this picture, okay, sitting on the sofa is John Paul Leon, right? Who recently died. Yeah. And standing up is Chris Sotomayor, one of the premier colorists in the industry. They were both part of my Bad Boy Studio mentor program, right? So that's how I'm living. So me and Dennis Cowan at the start of Milestone. Hard to believe I was 5 years old and looked like that. This is 27 years ago. Those are the exact glasses I'm still wearing today.
Lower it a bit. Lower it down a bit.
There we go.
Now we can see it first. Yeah.
Yeah. I still get those. I'm wearing those. The only thing different is I just get my lenses. My lenses.
Replaced.
Out.
Yeah. My subscription changes. Original Milestone jacket.
Oh man, I didn't even realize John really passed away.
Oh, John Paul Leon?
Because I was honestly, I was trying to. He was someone I was going to try to talk to when I was really putting together the podcast. I wanted to talk to everybody that worked on Static. Like that's how much of a fan I was. So he was on that list of people.
Well, John was like a son to me, and when he came into my class, which is the mentor program, is a non-profit. Nobody pays a thing. He was brought in by Bernard Chang. John. Did John bring in Bernard, or did Bernard bring in John? I'm not sure, but anyway, the way it worked is if you were in the program and if you bring somebody in, you're responsible for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if they screw up, you screw up. That's just some of the biggest names on the planet came out of my mentor program, and. So when
Haddish, Aaron Magruder.
When I found Tiffany, now the difference is
you knew about Tiffany.
Well, I mentored Tiffany, but she wasn't in the program, right?
Okay.
And I mentored John. Yeah, but because at this time I'm in LA and the program was based in New York, and I mentored Aaron Magruder, right?
Yeah.
But I wasn't. But because the program is really class. It was a class. Aaron never attended class, but Aaron got what do you call it, confrontation all the time, and the guy he was not a great artist at the time. I said, "What you want to do? You want to write?" Because that boy and I was
smart man, genius.
We'll get back.
Smart commentary.
But so this guy, so DC really, they didn't pay me for anything. And I'm working, and I got all this money in the bank, and I'm paying all this money in the bank for my 2 cars. This is a loft. That's another view. I think it's from. This is from the 3rd floor. Okay, you can see right where the beams are is the start of the 3rd floor. All right.
I'm gonna have to find that loft.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you see
it's definitely And then we see $100 million right there.
Well,
In
above the
today's money.
fireplace is a William T. Williams painting. William T. Williams is one of the most prolific and recognized African American artists, period. And then there's my paintings for Shadow, Shadow #1, and then there's the abstract pieces by an artist named Betty Blayton Taylor, who started the Children's Art Carnival, which is the Museum of Martin Arts Art School, and she's a phenomenal artist in herself. And this is the view from my Tribeca home. That was the view.
That's a cityscape.
That's why I can never stay there, even when I'm in New York for business, because my view is very interesting.
Yeah.
But man, I tell that to people, oh, yeah, how'd you afford that? So this is how I'm living, right? And when I found John, I put John on static. I'm gonna write. I'm still writing it, and then I'm like, I'll draw something else. So I moved over to Blood Syndicate, right? That was gonna be. Now I work for Photographs. I don't know if you guys ever seen any of my artwork, but I'm so talented. But I'm remember picture Beyonce. You don't see it. But she left that at my house. Interesting. Did you see The Color of Comics?
No.
Oh, dude, man, you got to see The Color of Comics. The Harvey Kurtzman. Harvey Kurtzman has a series on comics, and the milestone episode is called The Color of Comics. There's a lot of stuff in there you guys to check out, right?
I'm writing it down. I'm gonna watch it. Yeah.
You'll see this building. That's the Polygram building in New York, right?
Okay.
When there's a time in there's a moment. Hold on a second, let me see if I can do this. There's a light here, so I'm getting it out my face so you guys can see me. There's also, so there's a moment in the series where they talk about how Milestone moved out of their business, out of their offices, and they moved to DC's offices. These aren't DC's offices. That was the Polygram building. This is where my offices were when I ran Motown Film and TV.
Okay.
Right? But the impression is that but that's all right, man. That's what you do on TV, right? I mean, it's no big deal. So, I moved over to Blood Syndicate. Then Larry Stroman becomes available. And at the time, Larry Stroman is a god. He's doing Tribe. He's selling them. I was like, so he's like, let's let Larry Stroman do Blood Syndicate. I'll do a Milestone graphic novel, right? Now remember, long story short, DC didn't pay me for shit, not a thing. So now my income is dwindling, but I'm still working. I'm still going out. I'm still doing the conventions. I'm still doing all this stuff, man. And when Milestone hit, it was a pretty big splash. All that advertising was me. From the Milestone end. From the DC end, it was Martha Thomas, a phenomenal PR human being. But all that shit, man. You remember when we started Milestone? That's also the year they killed Superman.
Okay.
Remember, everybody remembers that.
Yeah.
So
well, I wasn't. I don't think I was quite alive yet.
If you don't remember, you said you weren't alive. What did you say?
He was a baby.
Yeah, I was either super young.
And you know about World War II, right? So, right? Well, you know about it, but you weren't there, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Superman helped to revitalize the industry, and not in a good way. So